Hey, this is Matt Lay with Lay Brothers Consulting, coming to you with the second installment of our video series, Management Reminders. The purpose of this video series is to share different concepts about management that we think are thought-provoking, could have good conversations as to what it is to be a manager. Our ideal audience or target audience is first-time managers, people that are making the transition from individual contributor work into management for the first time. But hopefully it's useful for managers at any point in their career. Today, the topic we're going to talk about is be clear of your seat at the table. And what we mean by this is that if you think of your day as a series of tables that you're going to sit at, whether they be just a conversation or a meeting, some interaction with other people, it's a good way of kind of compartmentalizing the tasks within your day. And when you're thinking about that, the clarity that you're looking for is both a clarity for yourself and a clarity to others as to what your seat is at the table. Taking that first piece, clarity for yourself, is the thought that as you're being invited into meetings or conversations, interactions, you need to be able to say and be clear about, why am I here? And if you can't answer the question or finish the sentence, my seat at the table is X, you need to ask for that clarity. Because a lot of the times we have a tendency to over-invite to meetings to say, oh, hey, you're passing in the hall, why don't you join this conversation? And while it's good to stay connected with people, as you move into management, you're going to realize that your time is becoming more and more a precious commodity. And so if you don't know why you're present in a particular situation or meeting, it's good to determine, one, why you're expected to be there, and then two, at times say no. Say, I don't think that this is the best place for me to be, or I don't think I'm the best person for what you're looking for. Here's someone from my team, or here's a different manager in a different department. So one of the first things to do is make sure that you understand your seat at the table and that it makes sense for you to be at that table in the first place. The second part of that, for clarity to yourself, is if you are supposed to be in that interaction at that table, make sure you take a moment before you step into it to be clear that you are at that table. Sometimes we have a tendency to be frantically running from one place to another, that we're thinking, and with keeping with the analogy of a table 2, 3, 4 steps down the road, and we're not being present at the table in front of us. And if we've taken the time to do that first step of clarifying if we need to be at the table, then we need to actually be at the table. Because we've deemed it worth our time, we need to make sure that we're making the best use of it while we're there. So the first part of being clear about your seat at the table is for tables that you're being invited to, make sure you understand why you're there and make sure that you agree with that. The second piece is clarity for others. So as you're being kind of moved into that management role, you're going to find yourself needing to set up meetings, setting in a sense the table within this analogy. And as you're doing so, as you like mentioned before, you're frantically being pulled around into different directions. And this is for a lot of people the first time they've been in charge of planning a lot of meetings. So it's new and it takes a bit more time. And so you just kind of want to get things done. So you throw a meeting together, you get the 4 or 5 people on your team involved, and you give it a subject line like quarterly numbers, and that's it. Well, once you send out that meeting invite, say for a week later, what is it that people need to bring? Are they just showing up? Is this a report out? Are they expected to bring particular data? They're going to spend time wondering and thinking about, what is it that they're supposed to be doing? Why are they even being invited to this meeting? That lack of clarity is going to take time away from them doing whatever it is that they do that creates value for the company. And so, as we mentioned in the first video, part of the role of management is to create clarity and to create space. This setting of the table is part of that creating space. And so now you should be taking like 10 to 15 minutes or whatever it takes to start, to be clear about the purpose, write that into the meeting request or the conversation. Just say, hey, I want to meet on X, so that people spend less time wondering about the purpose of the meeting and more time preparing for it or doing whatever it is they need to do in their daily work before the meeting happens. The second piece of that is when you're sitting at the table, usually that will in times involve you making a decision or having an opinion. And as you get to those points within management where you have to share what you think needs to be done or actually make the decision, you do a lot of that thinking in your own head. And so what ends up happening is your team and the people you work with, they see the conclusions and the outcomes, but they don't necessarily see that process. And this is another arena about being clear about your seat at the table, your opinion that you hold, or the decision you made, where they're going to start wondering. Your direct reports will say, well, why did we go in this direction and not another direction? Why didn't we have a meeting about this? Why was it canceled? Why did we end up creating this report? There's going to be a lot of why questions. And so as you move into management, being more aware of taking the time to step back and share the why, share the process that got you to the decision that you actually made, will be helpful to bring, again, more clarity to your team, which will allow them to focus more on the work they do and not on the decisions that you're making. But also, it's a step kind of what I would call management to leadership transition, that you're modeling a particular behavior. You're modeling vulnerability. You're modeling the ability to share where you got to or how you got to a decision, so that people can spend time seeing how to do that particular behavior, of how to put yourself out there and have your ideas challenged, your assumptions kind of held in the public sphere, because our blind spots are by definition things that we don't see. And so if we don't share how we got to a decision, our blind spots don't have an opportunity to be brought to light. And it also helps model the behavior of saying we care more about making the right decision than appearing to be right or appearing to have the authority. And so that's an opportunity kind of to move from management into leadership, which is a topic we can talk more about at a later video. But that allows you the opportunity to, in a sense, create less confusion by creating more clarity for people, by being clear of the decisions you make in the seat you're sitting at the table. So in summary, being clear about your seat at the table is both an opportunity for you to make sure that you're making the best use of your time by understanding why you're being invited into different interactions, also making sure you're being present with those interactions. And then two, for others, particularly your team, to be clear about the table you're setting and what the situation is, so they can spend less time wondering and more time working or creating value. And then also being clear about your why, so that people can help you make better decisions by understanding the process of how you come to make those decisions. So hopefully that is a good thought for you today. Hopefully have some good conversation. Please share any questions or comments you have. Always looking to keep the conversation going. Otherwise, see you next week. Thanks.